What's going on, guys? It's me, Ross, from Arturis Fan Club, back here once again with another basketball video. If you like the NBA, you like the Chicago Bulls, Chicago sports in general, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Helps me a lot. Like the video, drop me a comment. I really appreciate your support. I wanted to talk today about something that's trending in the NBA and will probably be a huge topic of conversation going into this offseason. And obviously, it's injuries. We last night saw Giannis go down with a gruesome looking knee injury, hyperextended it. At the time of recording this, we haven't heard anything yet, but he's getting an MRI and it doesn't look great. There's fears that it could be a torn ACL. And, you know, off the bat, just want to say shout out to Giannis for being such a warrior, walking off the court on his own power. Really hope he's okay. He's the future of the league. You hate to see it, and, you know, wishing him a speedy recovery no matter what kind of injury it is. But that's just the next in a long line of players who have had serious injuries, season-ending injuries, career-altering injuries this season in the NBA, especially in the playoffs. It's been very noticeable among the playoff teams, whether it was guys like Jamal Murray or Jaylen Brown who went down before the playoffs started, or guys like Chris Paul, now Giannis, that got injured during the playoffs. And one of the big questions that you're going to see talked about all offseason is, does this season have an asterisk on it? And we'll get to asterisks because I have opinions about that. But just to set the scene a little bit as to how we got here, and LeBron James, I know people want to make jokes about how the Lakers got eliminated and he's complaining about that, yada, yada, yada. To his credit, he was complaining about this before the season started. And obviously, once his season concluded, he had some words to say about the lack of rest for players, and how that has driven a rise in injuries among some of the league's very best players. So he's not wrong. This season, we have seen an uptick in player injuries, especially among the best of the best. It's just very noticeable when it's superstar players, you know, versus bench players, rotational pieces. Unfortunately, all injuries are serious and deserve to be treated the same, but it's a little different when it's the superstars. You notice it more. It affects these teams more. So it's noticeable. And it's notable that it ends up being these playoff teams that are dealing with these serious injuries, because these playoff teams are largely the same that were playing in the bubble last season. And if you remember, the bubble teams only had like a 2.5 month off season between the NBA playoffs and the beginning of this season. So not ideal, and not super surprising that those tend to be the teams that are having these huge issues. So this season has been condensed. They wanted to fit as many games as possible they could into the same window so that next season could start a little closer to on time. Mind you, next season is not going to be starting on time either. Next season is going to be starting a little bit early, just the same way this season started a little bit early. So the offseason is still going to be condensed. Next season is still going to be condensed. We're not out of the woods yet. This isn't over. And, you know, we need to address it. The NBAPA, the Players Association, did agree to this schedule with their backs somewhat up against the wall. Not really given much of a choice. Owners Association, owners in general, just kind of made it a sticking point that they need to play basketball, they need to do their jobs, and they want to try to get it back on the same timeline that it should have been following, you know, pre-COVID. That's not really how the world works. That's how money works. That's how the capitalist nature of our society works. You got to make as much money as possible. You got to milk these things dry. The NBA is more focused on ad revenue, on TV deals, and ticket costs to really do anything significant regarding the schedule. But I have some ideas on how it could be fixed to try to mitigate some of these issues going forward. My first opinion would be start the season at Christmas Day. Reduce the number of games in the season, maybe by 10, maybe by 20, and start the season on Christmas Day, but keep the same window. The playoffs should still be in the summer. The season should just start a little bit later and have fewer games. That way you can spread out time in between games. You can give guys more practice time. That was another issue this season, was lack of practice time. Guys can get more rest. Once again, that was an issue this season, not enough rest. You can spread those days out and stop having the road back-to-backs. That was my least favorite part of this past season, were road back-to-backs, which you'll hear the old heads will argue, well, back in my day, they just woke up every day and played basketball. They didn't care about rest. They were at the casino until 2 a.m. Listen, it's a different time. It's a different era. It's a different age for basketball. You just can't keep doing the whole old head comparing it to the 90s thing. It's just different today. Things are different. Maybe guys are more susceptible to injuries. I don't know. That part, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a health expert. I can't really diagnose why things are so different from the 90s today, in terms of these soft tissue injuries. But you can't ignore what's happening. Even if it was different back then, it was different back then. It's a new age for basketball, and we need to have a new age approach to keep these players safe. Because once again, at the end of the day, the idea is to have the best of the best in the playoffs. That is the best outcome for the sport. Because there is an issue within the NBA in terms of TV ratings, fan interest among casual fans, and global appeal. Obviously, the NBA has more global appeal than almost any sport, aside from the football that isn't oblong shaped. But there's an issue there with lack of interest, and I think partially that's due to the superstars not always being available. That's something people complain about all the time. Load management during the regular season. Well, we could get rid of load management. If there's more time in between games, more time for rest, there's less need for that. The regular season right now is just needlessly long. 82 games is a long time. I know this season is shorter, but that's just too long. Not everyone is going to care about 82 games. There's a stretch of games that really don't even matter during the regular season, and it's like, you don't need to watch it. It's really not that important. Like the Brooklyn Nets, man, they cruised into the playoffs with their players were injured most of the season. LeBron James was out for most of the season, and they still cruise into the playoffs because the regular season really doesn't matter that much. So I think we can place more emphasis on the regular season, make these games more exciting again, make ticket costs more worth their while. Because once again, people get really disappointed when they pay for a ticket and the superstar they came to see is not playing. So if we can extend, I'm trying to think of a cute way to describe it with just a few words, but condense and extend. I want to shorten the regular season and extend the days in between games. I think it's better for basketball. It's better for all of us. You can still stagger these games, so you still have a significant number of games going each night. It's another thing. There's a lot of games every night, and during the regular season, like, people just don't watch teams that aren't important, It just doesn't matter. And it's like, if you're going to have 30 teams, but you only want to talk about 12 of them, what's the point of having 30 teams? You know what I'm saying? We could do a better job of spotlighting those teams that maybe don't get talked about as much if there's fewer games and there's less of a slog every night of a huge lineup of games. You can stagger those games in between days, so maybe someone does catch a Kings game. I don't know. Maybe someone does. Maybe someone starts watching the Chicago Bulls again, because we had our fair share of issues with that too, of people not wanting to watch our games. So there's opportunities there to not only improve the health and safety of the players, but also improve the product overall and make it easier for fans to get into teams that maybe don't get as much attention. As for the asterisk conversation, I don't subscribe to asterisks. I don't believe in asterisks. I think at this point, every single team that's left in the playoffs has dealt with a significant injury. It's just the truth. These guys have all battled through adversity. Now, once again, it does suck sometimes not seeing the superstars of the league playing in these games. Not seeing Kawhi Leonard is disappointing. We want to see Kawhi Leonard. Not if Giannis is out, not seeing Giannis is a huge disappointment. Giannis is, like I said, the future face of the NBA. You want to see these guys playing in the playoffs. But once again, the NBA and sports in general are largely about luck and timing. If you happen to be the most healthy at the right time with the right amount of luck, you can win it all. And that's been the truth in NBA history. When the Raptors won it all, the Warriors were dealing with injuries. When the Cavaliers with LeBron won it all, the Warriors were dealing with that weird suspension with Draymond Green. Like, this happens in every single NBA finals. This happens in every NBA playoffs. This happens in every NBA season. It's not to say it's a good thing. Once again, there are a lot of improvements we could make to the playoff structure, to the regular season, to make it so these guys are healthy in the playoffs. But it is what it is. The situation is what it is, and we're in the situation. Asterisks are stupid. Asterisks should be reserved for situations in which something completely out of the control of the players has an unfair advantage on the game, like cheating. Asterisks should be reserved for situations like cheating. And maybe even a little bit of COVID, but we still got the bubble and we still got basketball out of that. So I think that asterisks are stupid personally. I'm not putting an asterisk on this season. I will remember this season as being a turning point, I would hope, for the future of the league in terms of how they handle health and safety of players. I think COVID was an interesting peek behind the curtain a little bit, because at that point they couldn't mess around with it. Players had to stay out, they had to quarantine. And it showed me that the league is willing to take it seriously if the situation is dire enough. And with COVID, obviously, you have no choice. It's a global pandemic. People could die. You need to take it seriously. So my whole point, my thesis of this entire video, shorten the regular season, but spread it out. Condense it, but expand it. That's the best way to get these superstars to the playoffs and to also still have them appear throughout the regular season instead of taking games off for load management. If there's fewer games, more time for rest in between them, guys will have fresh legs, it's easier for them to play every game. I think that will improve most of these problems. You're never going to fix injuries entirely. Injuries will always be a part of every sport. And once again, that's why I say asterisks are stupid. Injuries are a part of sports. It sucks, but it's just true. The NFL, every team is hurt every single season because they play so physically. The NBA is kind of the same thing lately. Every team is injured every season because they are all dealing with the same schedule. They're all dealing with soft tissue injuries. Some guys are obviously more conditioned than other. I mean, LeBron had that streak where it was like, does this guy ever miss time? But as you get older, things change. We need to take better care of these players because they are the future of the sport, especially the guys who are young right now. The last thing anyone wants to see is a career-altering injury to one of these young guys. I mean, Trae Young is hurt right now. Kawhi Leonard is hurt right now. Like, it's really disheartening to see these guys have to sit out these super important primetime nationally televised games. And the fan bases deserve better too. I say that as a guy who watched a team collapse because of injuries. We could do a lot better, and we could start next season if they're willing to negotiate and do something out of the best interest of the entire sport. I understand the owners have to look out for themselves too, but I really feel like you need to take a step back and look at the game as a whole and assess what is best for the future of the sport. Maybe not the best right this second. Maybe you're not going to get all that money, all those ticket costs, all those, the ad revenue, the TV deals. Maybe you're not going to get that up front, but you'll make it back in the long run when these superstars are playing more and people are tuning in more. So that's my take on the injury situation in the NBA right now and how they can improve it. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think that asterisks are real? Are you calling this a Mickey Mouse season? What do you feel about where the NBA is headed in terms of injuries, health, and safety? Thank you guys for watching. If you love basketball, if you love the Chicago Bulls, Chicago sports in general, make sure to subscribe. I'm making new videos every single day. If you haven't noticed, I'm uploading every day. I'm trying to bring you guys the best, most relevant content on a daily basis. So thank you again for watching. I'm at Arturus Fan Club on all platforms as always, and I will talk to you guys again very soon.